I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents. Catholic professors give House Speaker John Boehner an F on his politics. Plus, Mary makes a surprise appearance at the crossroads of the world.
I hope that we touch some people, and they too will know it's good to serve God without fear or shame.
And it's all about Mary in the streets of Flushing, courtesy of the Chinese apostolate.
You know, it's kind of cool to see the whole church grow and have a whole bunch of different communities. It's actually great.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. I will be with you for the next couple of days while Matt McClure is off. Well, I think that it's safe to say that House Speaker John Boehner is used to the slings and arrows that fly at him from the other side of the aisle, courtesy of his colleagues on the left. But this week, he may have been surprised by his newest critics, Catholic academics. Just ahead of the Speaker's commencement address at Catholic University of America in D.C. this Sunday, dozens of Catholic professors signed on to a letter that criticized the Speaker, a practicing Catholic, for what they see as his anti-life policies, particularly his support of the recently passed GOP budget that they claim would, quote, gut long-established protections for the most vulnerable members of society. Now, earlier today, I had a chance to speak with Stephen Schneck of the Institute for Policy Research and Catholic Studies at Catholic University of America. Stephen is one of the signers of that letter. Well, what prompted the letter in general? Was it a particular policy or his overall record in Washington?
Oh, thanks for asking, Francesca. You know, actually, it was probably the budget debate down here in Washington that caught all of our attention, and the contrast between what seemed to be going down in the budget for the poor and, the way that the church talks about the preferential option for the poor. So that's probably what prompted it. And then when we found that Speaker Boehner was selected to be the commencement speaker at the university, that's the moment when we began to be galvanized into some kind of action about it.
Interesting. Okay, well, back in 2009, many people actually called for the University of Notre Dame to uninvite President Obama from its commencement because of the president's support of abortion rights. And the letter isn't making the same call regarding Catholic University and Boehner. So why not take it to that level?
In fact, I was in favor of Obama speaking at the University of Notre Dame. It seems to me that universities are places for the interchange of ideas. And to deny speakers for one cause or another cause is kind of at odds with the very spirit of the university. So we certainly didn't want to block Speaker Boehner coming to campus. In fact, we welcome him, and we're just using this as an opportunity to educate him about what his church teaches in regards to the poor.
Okay. Well, let's take it this as the next question. At least one critic of the letter argues that while the duty of Catholics is to actually help the less fortunate, it isn't actually required that that help come from the government. So how do you respond then to that?
In fact, that's absolutely true. As long as the poor are being covered and taken care of in some fashion, then from the perspective of Catholic social teachings, that's fine. But on the other hand, Catholic social teachings require the state, the government, to step in when, in fact, the poor aren't being taken care of. And I think that we'd all argue, that the poor in this country are becoming poorer by the minute, and therefore the need for government action is important.
Yeah, certainly a concern for many people. Many people are suffering right now. Well, what are you hoping comes out of the publication of this letter for Boehner and for the national conversation on these issues?
I think what I really hoped would come out of this is what has come out of this. This has really started a conversation about what government's obligation to the poor is and should be. And I'm pleased to see Speaker Boehner himself in his most recent comment, addressing some of these issues. So I'm hopeful that this will be a great teaching moment for all of us.
All right, a great teaching moment, and you have helped instruct us on it. Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us on Currents today.
My pleasure, Francesca. Take care now.
And we did reach out to Speaker John Boehner's office, and we received this statement. The Speaker will be delivering a personal, non-political message at the Catholic University of America that he hopes will speak to all members of the graduating class, regardless of their backgrounds or affiliations. He is deeply honored to have been invited by CUA to address the school's graduating class and is looking forward to receiving an honorary degree from the only Catholic college in our country that is chartered by Catholic bishops. Stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. President Obama talks more than faith at today's Hispanic prayer breakfast. We'll have the latest on that and the rest of the day's headlines next. But first, we're midway through May, also celebrated as the month of the Virgin Mary. We decided to take our cameras to a parish and ask a few questions about this most famous of saints, including who are Mary's mother and father?
Anne and I forget.
That's a very good question. It's Old Testament. I don't know.
That would be Anne and Joachim.
Saint Anne and Saint Joaquin, I think, right?
Hold on. I know this.
Joachim and Anne.
I don't know.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up later, from China to Queens, it's a celebration of Mary. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. 2 days after his rally renewing the call for immigration reform, President Obama spoke at the National Hispanic Prayer Breakfast this morning in Washington. He told those gathered he needs their help to make that reform a reality.
What we need to do going forward is to address some of the broader problems in our immigration system. And that means changing minds and changing votes, one at a time. I know there's some folks who wish I could just bypass Congress. I can't. But what I can do is sign a law. What you can do is champion a law. What we can do together is make comprehensive immigration reform the law of the land.
Well, on Tuesday, the president called for immigration reform during a stop in El Paso, Texas. Following the president's speech, Archbishop Jose Gomez, chair of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Migration, urged Obama and Congress to work together to pass comprehensive immigration reform. In a statement, Gomez said the president and Congress can no longer wait to address the issue. Well, in other news from Washington, just hours after raising concerns about the nominee to be the next House chaplain, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi withdrew her objections. Pelosi was initially concerned because Father Patrick Conroy's religious order, the Jesuits' Oregon Providence, paid out $166 million for sex abuse settlements back in March. Conroy was not a member of the order when the abuse occurred and was not accused of doing any wrongdoing. Conroy may still face obstacles to becoming a House chaplain. However, Oregon Congressman Peter DeFazio, who himself is Catholic, says Conroy's past still needs to be thoroughly examined. Well, Delaware Governor Jack Markell signed a bill into law last night that makes Delaware the latest state to legalize same-sex civil unions. Both chambers of the Delaware legislature passed the bill by almost 2-to-1 margins. The law will take effect on January 1st. Although same-sex partners will be able to enter civil unions, Delaware does have a Defense of Marriage Act in effect, which prevents same-sex couples in the state from marrying legally. From Ireland, a watchdog group says the number of new allegations in the sex abuse case in the church rose last year. The National Board for Safeguarding Children, which was put in place by Irish bishops, says that there were 272 new allegations of abuse in the last year, compared with 197 the previous year. Only 12 cases involve priests who were still in active ministry. According to the report, all allegations were referred to civil authorities. As Japan continues to pick up the pieces following the deadly earthquake and tsunami, Pope Benedict has sent a representative to that country to support victims. Rome Reports has details.
According to official sources, Japan's earthquake and tsunami killed 15,000 people. Another 10,000 are still missing. Benedict XVI has sent Cardinal Robert Serra to support the victims. He's the president of the Pontifical Council Corunum. He will be there from May 13th to the 16th. As chairman of the department responsible for the Pope's charities, he will visit Sendai, where the epicenter struck. The Catholic Church is managing several shelters in the area of Saitama. Once he visits those affected there, the Cardinal plans to hold a Thanksgiving Mass in Tokyo to celebrate the beatification of John Paul II. Cardinal Sarah will also meet with the leaders of the most active charities in Japan. The Undersecretary of the Pontifical Council, Corunum, will also be attending.
And the Vatican will release a new document on the use of the traditional Latin Mass. According to the website Catholic Culture, it's expected to strengthen Pope Benedict's call to make the Latin Mass available in all dioceses. The document will reportedly make it clear that pastors do not need to seek further permission from bishops in order to celebrate the Latin Mass. Well, a week and a half after the news, a new survey shows a majority of Americans believe that it is wrong to celebrate the death of Osama bin Laden. According to the Public Religion Research Institute and Religion News Service survey, 60% of Americans think that it is wrong to celebrate bin Laden's death. However, at the same time, close to 2/3 of Americans believe that bin Laden is in hell. And famed television evangelist Billy Graham is hospitalized. A spokesman says Graham was taken to a hospital in North Carolina earlier this week. Preliminary tests indicate that he was suffering from pneumonia. Graham is reported to be in stable condition and fully alert. A family friend is asking others to keep Graham in their prayers.
Now the time is to pray and ask God to help the family and help him and protect him. He's meant so much to so many people, especially me personally. I do know that he is ready, and he's anxious to go to heaven someday to be with Ruth. But he said, I don't need to go right this minute.
Well, there has been no date set for Graham's release. And last week, it was the sisters. This week, the Diocese of Brooklyn recognized its religious brothers who are celebrating some milestone anniversaries. We sent our cameras to Douglaston, Queens.
We're very fortunate in the Diocese of Brooklyn to have so many religious brothers that are staffing schools and works of charity. So this is the night when we celebrate the anniversaries of those brothers who have jubilees.
The brothers are probably the least known because of the ministry being so misunderstood. And so the role of the brother is to do a church ministry, not necessarily a sacramental ministry, but a church ministry.
We can bring our skills in many ways to a community in terms of healthcare, schools, and other ministries, helping the sick, being missionaries, and we simply give our lives to that, to helping others.
The radical commitment to gospel way of living, to be there for those when no one else is there, to seek out the poor and those in need. That's why the brothers exist.
I can remember 51 years ago stepping out of my parents' car filled with a sense of enchantment and adventure and eager anticipation, and that hasn't changed.
We persevered all these years with God's help. Brother Robert is the first one I met on February 1st, 1950, in a snowstorm out in Smithtown. And here we are. The last ones we're still together.
We worked together on the pots and pans. It was our first job. And here we are, the last two, 60 years later.
And God bless them. Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. But first, we quizzed some local parishioners on Staten Island, and we asked them, what is it we celebrate on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception?
That Mary was born without sin.
It's on the tip of my tongue, and I guess I'm a little nervous being on camera.
The conception of Christ, the Immaculate Conception of Christ and the Virgin Mary.
She was conceived without original sin.
That she was a virgin even though she gave birth.
That Mary was, that Jesus was conceived.
Welcome back. Well, where else but a bustling California coastal city known for its surfing and avant-garde public art scene would you find a surfing Madonna? Just before Easter, a fake construction crew in hard hats installed a 10-foot stained glass mosaic of a surfing Our Lady of Guadalupe, complete with the message "Save the Ocean" running alongside its mural. It's become quite the tourist attraction, but city officials say it is an unauthorized use of public property and will probably be taken down. One surprising place where Mary was more of the center of the conversation as opposed to the center of controversy was Times Square. Despite the neighborhood's tourist-friendly makeover, you don't expect to find images of the Virgin Mary on 42nd Street. But right before Mother's Day, men and women gathered for the first annual Madonnas of the World procession right at the crossroads of the world.
Today we are gathered to reflect together on the role of Mary in our lives. Mary is our spiritual mother, our mother in the order of grace. Her presence in our lives, her smile, reminds us that no matter what struggles we're facing, no matter what difficulties or rejections or pain, we are loved.
We are here today as one Catholic family to celebrate the Blessed Mother and how important she is to us as our mother. And we wanted to bring her today to the streets of New York to show everybody that she is their mother too.
New York City is kind of it's a microcosm of the entire world. People from all over the world coming together, living together, busy, activity. And that's precisely where we need to be reminded that even though we come from different places and we have different walks of life, in a deep level we are united because we're children of God and we're called to be members of His kingdom.
One World, One Mother means to us that we are all different nationalities, different peoples, different languages, and we celebrate those differences. But in the end, we are all one family and God's children through Mary, our mother. Christ gave her to us on the cross for a reason, to bring us to Him through her.
The images that we'll be using in the procession today are actually all taken from a mosaic in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land, which represents the different titles and different appearances under which the Blessed Virgin Mary has been venerated. And I think the most interesting thing from my perspective is that they all have a common element, which is the face of a mother who's looking at her children with love. And so although many different ways she appears and many different kind of arrangements, that's the unifying principle of all these different images.
A lot of Catholics are sometimes afraid to witness to their faith. They're afraid to be made fun of, or maybe people don't understand. But I think it is important that people do understand what our faith is about and that the Blessed Mother is our mother too, and that we want to show the whole world, and especially here in Times Square, that they can come to the Blessed Mother and she can bring them to Jesus.
Mary opens up all the doors to the heart of Jesus for me in my life. She means everything to me. She's like my mother, and she's just the heart of God is given to me through her in a very special way that I wouldn't have if I didn't have such devotion to her. And her rosary draws you up to heaven. That's the heart of Christ in the rosary. So I'm thankful that I'm one of those people that has great devotion to the Holy Rosary and helps me spiritually and helps me tremendously. It's my pearls of great price in the ocean.
So when people in Times Square today, I hope, that's my prayer, when they see this large community of people boldly proclaiming and witnessing to our faith, I hope that we touch some people and they too will know it's good to serve God without fear or shame.
All right, well, stay tuned. There is much more current straight ahead. But first we head back out to the parishioners on Staten Island to find out if they can name one of the 4 Marian dogmas. I don't know about you, but I think this one's kind of tough.
The Immaculate Conception.
When Mary was taken up into heaven after her earthly life was finished. And also she is the Mother of God. She is the Immaculate Conception.
She's the Mother of the Church.
One of the 4 church dogmas about Mary. No, I can't.
That she was born without sin.
The conception was a miracle.
I don't know.
Finally tonight, the first day of May is a day when many churches celebrate the crowning of the Virgin Mary inside their parishes, but the Chinese apostolate decided to celebrate Mary in a very special and public way. For another year, the apostolate held a mass and procession through the streets of Flushing, Queens in honor of Our Lady of Sheshan. Traditionally, pilgrims would travel to Sheshan in China during the month of May. Sheshan is the only active pilgrimage site for Catholics in China, but this time it was Sheshan who came to the pilgrims and to the spectators.
My dear brothers and sisters,
We have gathered here in joy for the solemn blessing of the image of the Blessed Virgin Mary, under the title of Our Lady of Seshan.
Today we have the procession of Our Lady of Seshan. Well, just as we see Mary as the mother of all peoples, she's the mother of the Chinese people. The Seshan is the only basilica in China that is outside of Shanghai. It's over 100, almost 150 years old. It was built to honor Our Lady. I just got an email, one of our priests who is in China, saying that his bishop was detained because he mentioned to the people that the Vatican had issued a statement on the relationship between the Church and China. I think eventually, as communism gives way to more freedom, the problems that plague the Church today will be eliminated. I'm really happy to be with the Chinese people today in this wonderful procession.
I actually didn't know about Shishan until, they sent over the statue. Like, to know that how Catholic are expanding like everywhere in China and coming over here too. I think that was great. My family was always Catholic. I mean, I was born a Catholic. My parents, they did immigrate here from Taiwan. I was walking around during the parade, and some guy asked me if this was like a Buddhist thing. Like, aren't Chinese people usually Buddhists? And I told him we were Catholic. I just pray that everyone finds out about God and Jesus, and I hope I see it expanding, so I know that's good, And sometimes I pray that it expands more.
I've actually been in this church for about 21 years, for my whole life. So, it's kind of cool to see the whole church grow and have a whole bunch of different communities. It's actually great. I'm happy that the Chinese community came here a while ago and, shared their experience with the Catholic religion. This is the first time I actually processed, and it was interesting seeing all the people on the sidewalks, coming out of their apartments, on their balconies, looking outside their windows like, oh, what's this going on? And, they get a little taste of what, Our Lady of St. Shang is about, a little bit about the Catholic faith. There's a whole bunch of different religions that are watching us process. I'm glad I actually did it this year. I think I will definitely be here next year.
Certainly a very colorful and diverse celebration. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Tune in tomorrow as we explore just what's behind the flap over the confirmation of the new House chaplain at our nation's capital. Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. We are also on Twitter and on Facebook. And now we're going to leave you with people's thoughts on why so many people are so devoted to the Virgin Mary. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Francesca Maxime. Have a great night.
She represents all that we love, our mothers, and she's the mother of the church.
And she guided Jesus through his life, and we ask her to guide us.
She intercedes for us.
She's kind of like our link to God. She will petition on our behalf directly to God.
She's the mother of Jesus, and it was a miracle that she was conceived and she carried the Son of God.
The reason why I have a devotion to Mary is because of patience.
Well, she was a simple girl, and her obedience to the will of God